A modern African painting. A shock to those who believe African art consists of carved masks and wooden statues. The painting is part of an exhibition called Art from Africa. A collection of over 300 works, it's been hailed as the most exciting exhibition of contemporary African art to tour Europe. Now in London at the Commonwealth Art Gallery, it's being combined with African films, poetry, and dance. The Moss Movers Dance Company. Like many of the paintings and sculpture on display, the dance owes little to traditional African culture. Western influence has brought modern dance forms, as well as canvas and paint. Traditional African artists wouldn't try to portray what they saw. Art was for religious or tribal decoration. These pictures show that today African artists are painting events in nature and, more importantly, reflecting the changes in their own societies. In the last few decades, millions have left the countryside for life in the cities. It's been a period of dramatic social change. The new cities reflect the dominance of Western culture. The automobile is the symbol of personal status. The skyscrapers are the showpieces of the new nation-states. In this formal setting, new university-trained artists have been entrusted with commissions to decorate the new buildings, where they may be asked to paint messages to help unify the people behind a government or national project. Outside the modern Western-style city centers are the shanties and markets. This is the melting pot where people from the countryside make their first contact with city life. Here, a host of painters with little or no schooling have begun to stamp their own original mark. As they copy and adapt Western styles, a new art form is born. It's called street art. You can see it in the shop signs of West Africa. At the exhibition, there is this tailor's signboard and that of a motorbike mechanic. These belong to stallholders or small businessmen. A barber might set up his hoarding outside a small room or in the marketplace. A barber like this will order a sign from an artist which clearly shows the various exclusive cuts and styles on offer. Each fashion and hair will have an appealing name of its own. Street art shamelessly borrows from Western culture. In other parts of Africa, Europeans tried to promote indigenous art. In Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, a European helped revive soapstone carving. A new sculptural tradition sprang to life, which seemed to echo the ancient carving of Zimbabwean culture. Frank McEwen was the first director of the National Gallery in Salisbury. He encouraged African artists working with locally quarried soapstone. The most notable success was a sculptor's colony based on a farm in the bush. Here the artists live in residence, producing work for sale. Oiling the soapstone produces the luster so typical of this art. Work has emerged of great originality and technical merit. In Zaire, formerly Belgian Congo, Frenchman Pierre ROMAIN-DESFOSSES set up an art school before the Second World War. Dismayed by the decline of traditional African art, he set about cultivating new forms. After the war, his Academy of Native Folk Art attracted a number of African artists who immersed themselves in painting with dedicated enthusiasm. The studio quickly gained international recognition. The best-known member of the group is a former house painter, Pilipili Mulongoya. He uses square wooden boards on which he paints scenes from nature, stylized birds, plants, and wild animals. This work from 1948 is called Antelopes Drinking. 1960, and the Congo in turmoil. The province of Katanga made a determined attempt to secede from the newly independent state. At the end of 1961, United Nations forces moved into Katanga. News cameras brought the action to world television screens, while Congolese artists recorded the events on canvas. This painting, Parachute Drop on Stanleyville, is by Kasongo. He chronicled the events of those first bloody years of independence. Here the fight for a strategically important bridge, the bridge over the Shopo. 9 years later in Nigeria, and screen-printed art records an attempt by the province of Biafra to secede. For the Nigerian leadership, under General Gowon, the nation was indivisible. Posters sought to rally support. Nigerian troops were sent out to crush the breakaway Biafrans. But what was hoped would be a small police action was to drag on for 3 bloody years. As in the Congo, tribal rivalries had surfaced in Nigeria following independence. The Igbos of Biafra feared domination by the Xhosas of the north. There was stubborn resistance before the last Biafran soldier surrendered. The Nigerian artist Middle Art painted his personal record of the war. He tells how his hometown became part of the war zone. As a refugee, he began a barbershop until forcibly conscripted into the Biafran army. After the war, he was to return home and set up an art studio. The whole work is called The Suffering Stages of Life. For many, the devastation of the Biafran War was to lead to intense suffering. Biafra was ravaged and its people starved. Dramatic pictures of malnourished children were the first scenes of a now all too familiar picture in Africa. Some Nigerian artists sought to show hope. This picture expresses joy that the war's end will mean no more hunger. Not all contemporary African art lacks traditional roots. Ethiopia's modern painting traces its roots back many hundreds of years. Ethiopia has been a Christian enclave in Africa since the 4th century. According to ancient tradition, Christianity was spread among the Ethiopian ruling classes by a Syrian, Saint Frumentius. It's Christianity with a strong Eastern flavor. Over the centuries, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved its unique traditions, one of which was painting. Art was used for religious decoration, but some artwork, like this old painting, commemorated the success of the Ethiopians in preserving their religion against Islamic and African attacks. In more modern times, paintings depict the fight against European invaders. This painting shows the Battle of Adawa in 1896. The victorious Ethiopians under Emperor Menelik are shown full face, avoiding the evil eye of the Italian invaders. Watching over the battle is the national saint, St. George. Written script identifies the important figures. Another form derived from sacred painting is this storyboard style, a canvas composed of many small pictures separated by grids. Each picture chronicles an important event in the story. In the last 100 years, this style of painting has become a form of folk art. Today, these pictures tell about the lives of modern Ethiopian heroes. This one traces the career of Olympic marathon champion Abebe Bikila. From Emperor's Guard to Olympic hero. Running barefoot to win the marathon gold medal, Bekele gave Ethiopians renewed national pride. As events, his 2 Olympic titles in 1960 and 1964 were just as important as the glorious battles of the past. This exhibition shows that African artists have found new themes and new styles. Vigorous art movements have sprung up all over the continent. Compared with the traditional tribal works, their art isn't as uniquely, recognizably African. Africa's changed, and to reflect that change, African art has had no alternative but to take on a new face.